Well, good morning to you and all y'all, Uber Tuber Ubers, and great and small. Hey, come on in, have a seat. I'm smoking a cigarette. You can have a cigar if you like. I suppose you could smoke reefer, but we're not going to talk about that. Just a short talk in the trailer with the old guy, and we think we know who that is. And so I won't identify myself other than to say the same guy you saw in the last video, the same channel. It's a Saturday morning, and slept real good last night. By golly! Now after that crazy repair job, the one that I was mentioning with that going into it, kind of grim. Well, darn it! If I had just thought to myself, "Hey, listen to yourself, Mike." I knew how to put the valve together. It was a 2.5 inch sweat ball valve, and those things they have a lot of mass, so you got to get it to heat in order to take. But the solder won't take otherwise. Well, I got all confident. Thought, well, I'm just going to build it up in place and solder it against the wall. It was like that far away from the wall. And one little tiny drip, after like 3 hours of putting this thing back together and checking it, and man, I never looked at that joint. So, anyway, evacuating that water out and everything else was just kind of nuts because I ended up boiling it out with my torch. And finally got the darn thing to heat. I swear I was heating that thing for 40 minutes straight with an A10 turbo, and it was like, that heat's going somewhere. The solder ain't moving. So anyhow, we finally made it go. Got out of there about 3:30 in the morning, something like that, and got home. It was close to 4, and couldn't sleep. I thought, well, too bad I don't have a beer. So I said, I'll go ahead and sleep anyway. And I thought, everything hurts. My shoulders hurt, my hip. And I thought, I'll warm up. I'll feel better. By 6 o'clock, I decided, no, I'm not warming up and I don't feel better. So I got up and took a blazing hot shower, and that did help quite a bit. Kind of, finally. But I still couldn't sleep. I took the day off work. I still couldn't sleep, and didn't sleep until all of a sudden about last night, about 6:30ish. Things get a little winky on me, and I don't actually recall what happened. I was sitting here watching YouTube stuff, and I must have thought, I'm going to lay down for a few minutes or something like that. Boom, I wake up, and it's like, ugh. It's like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours had gone by, and I thought, well, I must have slept. I don't remember dreaming. Anyway, enough of that. It was a long night, but I sure feel better. So today I'm going to go out and do a couple of side jobs that I just want to talk about. This is a little bit of kind of a parable of our world, okay? Delta Products is a pretty good line of plumbing stuff. Mostly I'm thinking in terms of faucets and stuff, and I really don't know how broad the Delta line goes, but I know they have stuff like, towel hangers and stuff that has nothing to do with plumbing. Stuff, decorative stuff, but I don't really know how far their product range goes, and I don't care. But the point is that for years and years, people ask me occasionally, well, we're changing out our kitchen sink faucet. Can you recommend a brand? I say, well, my default all those years was Delta. I said, well, Delta's got a real good design. I said, Moen's, that's a solid product, and a lot of Kohler stuff is actually pretty good faucetry. But Kohler's weird because their own design varies from year to year inside their own product line. Why? So just try to find parts for Kohler. You're going to have to go back to Kohler, and that means I think they're out of Minnesota or somewhere. Anyway, maybe they'll get you a part in a couple of days. I don't know, but you're not going to find it on a shelf, probably. But at any rate, the thing is that Delta kind of went south. There's a lady I know from church, and she runs a business. She's got a kindergarten care place for little kiddos. And so I'm looking at these lav faucets, and I'm thinking, I have never seen this before. Probably in the last 3 years, out of those 4 faucets, 4, she's probably changed cartridges 18 times. Well, actually, I have. She keeps saying this to me. It's always kind of funny. Well, you got to show me how to do this, so I don't have to call you in. It's like, well, I said, it's really not that hard. You can look at a YouTube tutorial on this Delta new products. It's real easy. I'm not going to go into how to service a Delta faucet just now, but the point is, compare that, 18 failures out of 4 faucets in, what's it been, a year and a half? I can't really remember, but it's kind of traumatic. They all kind of blend together. What, that again? And I've never seen faucets doing this. So This all began to click in my mind about a year, and well, it was a little over a year ago. It was around Thanksgiving, I believe. And I was up there, and a young lady was asking me about a faucet problem she and her live-in boyfriend had. And I said, well, describe it to me. By the time she got done describing it, I told her, you don't really need a plumber. Oh, really? That's good. You need an exorcist. Her problem was impossible. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen that way. And I was thrashing around in my mind, flip. How could this be? Maybe she's not even looking at this right. So I said, well, I'll tell you what. Let me come in tomorrow. I had another day off. I was up in Albuquerque for 2 or 3 days. I said, I'll just swing by over there and take a look at it if that's okay. Sure. I'm crawling around looking under the faucet. I see that it's dry as a bone. I can see also exactly where she said she saw water running down the back of the china, then dripping onto the floor until she put a bucket in there. And it was dripping so significantly she could hear it from the next room. So it wasn't like one drip now and the next one 20 minutes later. It was drip, drip, drip. And that's the way these faucets are. So what happens is when they fail almost catastrophically, but just enough to make a terrible mess out of your base cabinet, destroy the base cabinet if you don't look at it for 2 weeks or something like that. But at any rate, the point is, at that time, I called Delta product line up, their 1-800 Tech Data idiot number, and they can walk you through problems if you're having it with installation or servicing a faucet or whatever. So they're really pretty good. And I knew they probably had this data. So I said, tell me, what's the maximum allowable input pressure for this product that Delta guarantees? Oh, well, that would be 40. I said, 40? Do you mean like 4 followed by a 0? Yeah, 40 PSI. And I thought, well, that's about half the operating pressure of a lot of the houses I work on, or maybe it's 2/3. But as a max allowable input, I don't think so. I said the only way you would do that was either with a major pressure reducing valve, or if you had a well, you could change the flow switching out so that it would operate in a lower range. But what? Whose idea was that? And so anyway, here's the story though. Okay, and they're not going to tell you this, but I will. The product is actually better than 40. Well, hooray! But somewhere between 74 and 82, it craps its guts, and the incoming line pressure coming in from the curb basically overwhelms this stupid looking pretzel shaped O-ring they have that seals the whole thing. And they didn't think far enough to slightly oversize the O-ring so that you get some compression on it, moron. Here I am, a plumber with a high school education. I can look at their design and I know exactly what went wrong. Meanwhile, compare that. There's another older lady I know, and she's a nice lady, and I've gone over and helped her out with, faucets and shower heads and, stuff like that. Or can you make my toilet quit running, that kind of thing. And sometimes I can. And anyway, she's got a Delta faucet. Lav faucet. Probably looks a lot like the ones the other lady has, except it was the old Delta design. That was the one I was recommending. It was a single ball in there, had a couple of little gaskets on the bottom with a couple of springs. You could tighten the tension a little bit to adjust on top. Other than that, leave it alone. If it leaks, get another ball. Take the ball out, put a new one in. Done. Well, there were problems with that because sometimes the cap nut would seize on you and you can't get to the guts without splitting the cap nut, which required a special tool, which almost no one has. So guys would go after it with a grinder, right? Split the thing and then realize they hit the threads. Faucet is junk now. So that's kind of the downside of Delta, was that sometimes if the last guy who serviced it wasn't like me and put a little bit of grease on those threads before putting it together, you can't get it apart without just destroying the sucker. So I hope I can get hers apart. But anyway, here's the difference. She seems to remember, I think she's been in this home for 16 years, and this faucet was put in before she moved in. It's an original. It's probably a 25-year-old faucet. Now it's beginning to leak very slowly out of where? The spout, where you could see it, not underneath where it's going to destroy the cabinets. And it's just a good thing that the ladies have been diligent enough to be checking under that base cabinet. Who looks under base cabinets for leaks? Unless you know something's wrong, it's running out, something like that. But as a plumber, I can no longer in good conscience recommend Delta product. Now there is an exception, or three. They have a wall mount series 10,000, and the 10,000 works good for. They have a high low end on their faucet trims, and you get real expensive if you want to. And the Delta system there is okay on the walls. Also, their deck mount tub faucets, that's old style cartridge stuff, which was the second actually. First, the original was the ball, and then the cartridge, or maybe I got that backwards. The ball or cartridge is okay, but what they've got now is a extractable cartridge that's sealed up. If you make the mistake opening that thing up with a screwdriver or something, you'll have to force it open. You're not getting it back together again. And if you do, it wouldn't work anyway. Throw it away. You need a whole cartridge. And guess what? They've just upped their sales, haven't they? Well, we made it that old style, and we hardly ever sold any cartridges. So they basically just farmed it out to Peerless. Let Peerless make it. But it was like this. Oh, now think about how many cartridges we're selling. We've really boosted product sales, haven't we? Yeah, except where does public opinion come from? Except from the public, and the public is pissed off at this new design. It was a terrible idea. And when plumbers begin to wake up around the country to it and all begin to uniformly condemn this Delta line, unless they make some changes and make the O-ring bigger, idiot. It's not really an O-ring. It looks sort of like a pretzel, except it's orange. Kind of make you sick. Ugh, orange pretzels. But at any rate, that's the comparison now. Old and new, modern and up-to-date versus old school, backwards, Stone Age. Guess what? One of them worked. And that's kind of the difference between all the, you know how you can tell I'm a racist? What? I'm on time. You can tell I'm a racist? Yeah, how's that? Because I can read. That's what these people are building over here. New, modern versus the old one that, at least for all of its failures, at least it used to work. So get to work, have a good day, and don't forget to smile at things because, in the long run, when he comes for you, whether it's today or tomorrow or at the end of the world, here's the deal. Either you're going to die and I'm going to die. We'll end up in the dirt like our fathers did, or he'll show up. But in that case, that means the world dies. So, in other words, he's inevitable one way or another. And as the inevitable, he's also the utterly desirable, the center of wonder and goodness and gladness. He's the best. So find a way to interact with him through the foibles and stupidity of a fallen, sad, and broken world by remembering that this is not the final take. We're pilgrims here, and this world's passing away. But you and you and you and you who believe him, you are forever in him. And that changes the tables entirely. The big state, the superpowers, the WEFs, all those guys, who cares about them? They're flash in the pan. Here today, gone tomorrow. Where is the Napoleonic threat these days? Where's the scary part about the Huns nowadays? In other words, these things come and go. And what looks horrible and disgusting today, and speaking of horrible and disgusting, I just wanted to give a little, mic thumb up. There's a young lady, Tulsi Gabbard. I so enjoy listening to this lady speak. Little sound bites really is all I'm looking at. But I guess she's finally left the Democrat Party, and she's come out now, and she's a very intelligent lady. Now, I don't agree with her on everything, and I don't think that's necessary. I admire her when I listen to her. She has integrity. She speaks with clarity and conviction, and I believe she's fundamentally a square, solid person, unlike some. And so anyway, the disgustingness of it all, the kind of brokenness, and yet in that, people like her stand up and shine the light of truth and bring back to memory that excellence is a possibility if you'll apply yourself. You don't have to remain who you are. This is America. You can change. How do you change? Well, mainly spiritually, right? At the center of you, something in your heart goes a new path. And for that, we need help. And for that, he came. So it's a gospel day. How about that? Happy gospel day. The good news. The good news is he's moved in and it's for keepers. Amen.